All right, today we are jumping into an absolute classic, a book that has literally changed the game for traders for decades. Mark Douglas's The Disciplined Trader. And it makes this really bold claim, right? That the biggest fight you'll ever have in the market, it's not with the charts, it's not with the news, it's with what's going on right between your ears. So let's get into the lesson he had to learn the really, really hard way.
So the book doesn't kick off with some secret trading formula or a fancy indicator. Nope. It starts with this incredibly raw personal confession, the statement from Mark Douglas himself. This is the bedrock of everything that's about to follow.
Which makes you wonder, right? What on earth could you possibly learn that would be worth losing everything? Your house, your car, all of it. Well, it turns out the lesson had nothing to do with the market and everything to do with the mind.
Okay, so to really get this lesson, we have to understand the pain behind it. This wasn't just a bad week of trades. No, this was a complete and total collapse of who he thought he was. It was the brutal, forced start of an entirely new way of thinking.
And look how fast this all happened. It's just staggering. In June of '81, he's chasing the dream in Chicago. Less than a year later, by March of '82, that dream is completely imploded. The Porsche he loved, the swanky apartment, the credit he was so proud of, poof, all gone.
But here's the thing. The most important part of the story is what happened after he hit rock bottom. Once there was nothing left to lose, all that intense pressure, all that stress, it just evaporated. And in that quiet space, he had this epiphany. The market was never his enemy. The real enemy was his own desperate, all-consuming fear of being wrong. And this gets us to the absolute core of the book's argument. Why do so many incredibly smart, successful people just get obliterated when they try to trade? Well, Douglas says it's because the very mental software that makes us successful out there in the real world is the exact same software that causes us to fail in the markets.
I mean, think about it. Have you ever wondered why the things that make you win at your job or in business just seem to backfire spectacularly in the market? That's the conflict right there. We spend our whole lives learning the rules for a structured game, and then we walk into this arena where none, and I mean none, of those rules apply. It's like trying to play baseball on a football field. It just doesn't work.
And this slide just lays it out so perfectly, doesn't it? In our everyday lives, we're guided by rules set by others, and we're taught that if you work harder, you get more. But the market, man, the market is a psychological wilderness. There are no rules except the ones you make for yourself. And hard work, it has absolutely zero connection to your results. You can make a fortune in 30 seconds with one click.
So how in the world do you navigate an arena like this? Well, first, you have to really understand its unique, totally unforgiving nature. We're talking about truths that make it unlike any other environment on the planet, and an environment that's now supercharged 24/7 thanks to crypto and global markets.
So Douglas boils the whole psychological challenge of the market down to these 4 truths. Now, they look pretty simple on the screen, right? But believe me, mastering the mental skills to actually live by them, well, that's the entire game. Let's break them down.
Okay, first up, this one is a really tough pill for most people to swallow. The market is just the sum of what everyone else is doing. It just is. Your personal opinion about what it should do is completely irrelevant. You can argue with it, you can get furious at it, it doesn't care. Your job is not to be right. Your job is to make money.
Next, unlimited potential. You know, if you're in a poker game, the most you can possibly lose is whatever's in the pot. But in a trade, the potential for profit and loss is, in theory, infinite until you close it. This ambiguity is a total psychological minefield. It feeds both that fantasy of the one big trade that'll change your life and the absolute terror of losing everything. Then there's this idea of perpetual motion. Prices are always moving. The market never really sleeps. And because of that, there's no defined end to a trade. This creates this constant temptation, right? Should I take my profits now, or could it go higher? Should I cut this small loss, or will it come back? Without a rock-solid internal framework, that constant motion will just grind you down. So that leads to the billion-dollar question, doesn't it? In a game with no rules, no limits, and constant movement, how can anyone possibly win consistently? Well, the answer Douglas discovered has absolutely nothing to do with trying to predict where the market's going next.
See, the solution isn't to try and control the market. You can't. The solution is to control the one and only thing you actually can, yourself. You have to build the internal structure that the external environment completely lacks. And this number right here, this is the whole story according to Douglas. 80%. He argues that your success as a trader is 80% psychological.
Your amazing system, your charts, your research, all that stuff, that's only 20% of the battle. Just think about that.
And this is such a critical point. The goal is not to trade without fear. That's impossible. The market is built on uncertainty. The real goal is to build such an unshakable trust in your own rules and in your ability to follow them that fear just doesn't factor into your actions anymore. See, discipline isn't about punishing yourself. It's about giving yourself freedom from fear.
So here's the blueprint. This is how you build that 80%. And notice, these aren't rules for finding a good trade. They are rules for managing your own mind. It all starts with accepting total responsibility. Then you create structure, and you always define your risk before you ever get in. After that, it's all about executing flawlessly and making that huge mental shift. Stop trying to predict and start thinking in probabilities.
And really, everything we've talked about, it all comes down to this single, powerful idea. The struggle, the frustration, the wins, the losses, none of that is coming from your screen. It's coming from inside you. The market is just a giant mirror, reflecting your own psychological state right back at you.
And that really is the ultimate takeaway from The Disciplined Trader. The path to consistent success, it doesn't start with a better chart or a faster newsfeed. It starts by taking a good, long look in the mirror and asking if you're ready to face your only real opponent.